We'll look at that, and we continue to look ahead to spring practice. Just a couple of weeks ahead, just a couple of weeks away from Tennessee and some other teams around the SEC taking the field for spring practice. And Brent's, put out some big questions on offense and defense already this week. But saw this list from Clark Brooks, SEC StatCat, with us here at On Three, and he kind of ranked some quarterbacks for the pre-spring SEC quarterback rankings. It's never too early to get into list season, and he ranked 10 quarterbacks. No A&M, Missouri, Auburn, or Vanderbilt on this list because there's some uncertainty there. But 10 quarterbacks, including some returners and some new starters and a couple of transfers in there. And he has Joe Milton ranked at number 4 in terms of the pre-spring SEC quarterback rankings. Number 1 is KJ Jefferson of Arkansas. Number 2 is Jaden Daniels of LSU. Number 3 is Devin Leary, formerly of NC State, now at Kentucky. And then Joe Milton comes in at 4, right in front of Spencer Rattler at number 5. Brent, I'll ask you first. First and foremost, what an underwhelming group of quarterbacks compared to the namesake from last year. Do you like kind of where Milton is? Do you think that's fair? I think I might have had him 5th, but overall, I think 4 is a good spot for him.
Yeah, I'm not sold on the KJ Jefferson love from Arkansas. I just I'm not. He's not getting like Will Levis love, that type of deal. But I'm just. To me, that one, I could see Jaden Daniels ahead of him. I get the Devin Leary love when you look at what he did at NC State. And, the thing about KJ Jefferson, and I think when you do lists like this, I don't know what all the criteria is, Rob and Matt, when you look at these things. To me, it's a lot about who do you have around you, okay? The top 2 receivers at Kentucky a year ago were freshmen. They're going to be better at receiver. I don't know where Arkansas gets receivers from. They couldn't get anybody open last year without Burks on the field, with him being gone. They've had some kids transfer out. I don't know what kind of weapons KJ Jefferson has to go with him, and I don't think I'm just not sold. So he would not be my number 1 quarterback in the SEC in my pre-spring list. So I would start there. Again, Joe Milton's got some weapons. Joe Milton's got continuity with the offense. Which can help, and so I'd say probably 4 is probably fine for Joe Milton, but I'm just not sold on KJ Jefferson being at the top. I don't really get that one.
Yeah, I think when I looked at that, I would have probably had Jaden Daniels at 1. But when you look at the top of that list, all those guys have played a lot of football. But the same thing for me with KJ Jefferson. Who's he throwing the ball to? They struggled last year getting him open with Kendall Briles, an offensive coordinator. What's Dan Enos' system going to look like? It's a new system out there. So I just have questions about KJ Jefferson. And like you said, he's not getting Will Levis love, but he's getting some love. So I'm not sold on that one yet either. And I'm interested in Devin Leary. Obviously Rich Scangarello's time as offensive coordinator at Kentucky didn't go as planned. But, Liam Cohen's back. What does that look like? Devin Leary's played a lot of football, was really good in the ACC. But Will Levis, again, I go back to the Will Levis conversation. He's being talked about as a potential number 1 draft pick. That offense should only be better, and how does Leary slot into it? So I think 4 is fine for Joe Milton. I kind of thought Will Rogers might be rated a little lower than what I would have had him. But what do things look like in Starkville too? There's just a lot of questions on that quarterback list. And again, it's one of those lists. It's preseason. What does it mean at the end of the day? But I thought Will Rogers got slotted a little bit.
Rob, I'll mention this, and I agree with you there, Matt, on Will Rogers. Sure, a lot of people say he played in a quarterback-friendly system for so many years, and but he's putting up numbers, and I've seen him do it year after year after year. Whereas I saw Spencer Rattler do it for the last 2 games of the season. But on Devin Leary, Rob, I'll say this. I mean, sure, Will Levis has the pro makeup, the physical attributes, and all that type of stuff. He will be a top 10 pick, and he played like crap a lot of times at Kentucky. I mean, just point blank. But he will be a top 10 pick. The difference here is Devin Leary was one of the best quarterbacks in the nation in 2021. He took a step back in 2022 at NC State, injuries, missed some time and all that. But if you channel into that 2021 season for Devin Leary and you put him in Kentucky now, I'm not saying Kentucky's going to win the East or go to Atlanta. I don't believe that. But that might be the biggest addition in the SEC this year if it works out that way. Whereas when you went and got Will Levis, he wasn't really anything. I understand he did some things at Penn State, but he did not have the hype or the film work that Devin Leary has coming into Kentucky.
Well, 2 years ago, Leary threw for 35 touchdowns and with 5 interceptions. I mean, as you say, I mean, battled a lot of stuff last year, but I mean, 35 and 5, that's wildly productive and efficient at the same time. So, you know, and it goes back to Brent's point. I'm not sure what all they have around him besides, you know, Barry and Brown. But when I look at that list, I mean, these guys have a long way to go, but whoever plays quarterback at Alabama or Georgia will not be the 8th and 9th most productive quarterback in the SEC. Because of what they have around them.
On that note, though, Brent, I mean, I find it interesting. Jalen Milroe, I'm not convinced he'll be the starting quarterback for Alabama, and if he does, I'm not convinced that he's going to last the entire year. Carson Beck,
that's why I said whoever plays quarterback at those two schools will not be the 8th and 9th most productive players at that position.
I just think Jalen Milroe is not very good. Now, Carson Beck, he's just not experienced, but he's experienced in the system. He's been there a couple times, but a couple 5-stars right behind him. The 8-9 on this list, Carson Beck and Jalen Milroe. Kind of your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I would have put probably the kid from Missouri at 10 over Mertz from Wisconsin, the freshman last year. I thought he was solid. I don't understand why you don't. I mean, I would have him probably in my top 10 somewhere. You know, Milroe, I mean, I just think you're putting the Alabama quarterback on there. I think most people at Alabama think Ty Simpson's going to be the starter down there, unless they bring in a transfer post-spring from somewhere, you know, if something stupid, crazy happens in the transfer portal. But I don't think it's going to. So I don't even think Milroe is going to be the starter going into the year. I think that'll be Ty Simpson. The other thing about this list, when I look at it, and that's why I said earlier, I don't know what the criteria is. You look at this, Mertz, transfer, new system. Milroe's got a new offensive coordinator. Beck's got a new offensive coordinator. You got Spencer Sanders. Was he on the roster? They brought in so
Oklahoma State.
Okay. So he's a transfer, new system. Will Rogers is going to be playing in a new system. Spencer Rattler's got a new offensive coordinator. Joe Milton's got all the continuity of anybody to this point on this list because you know what the system is. Devin Leary's productive. Got a new offensive coordinator, new weapons around him to work with because he's been at another school. Jaden Daniels, continuity, because we all know what they're doing at LSU. That will build. I mean, you look at where Brian Kelly's quarterbacks are year 1 to year 2, they take a big step, much like Hendon Hooker took a step. So I think that's why you can make a case for Jaden Daniels being number 1. And then KJ Jefferson's got a new system that he's going to be learning as a quarterback. So the hard thing with this list is it's not just the talent, Rob. It's the unknowns of what the offense is going to be for them. And what it's going to look like and how they fit into that and how they can tailor it to those guys. Maybe one of the greatest years of unknowns at the quarterback position, not just because of the questionable talent with the quarterback, but because of their, you know, so many of them are playing in a new system, either as a transfer or they got a new coordinator.
Yeah, and what a difference. I think somebody already pointed it out, but what a difference a year makes when, you know, this time last year, that list included 3 guys that are absolutely locks to be, you know, in the first round, and 2 that are, you know, getting talked about for the number 1 overall pick. And you can't say that now. And another interesting thing, just glancing at it, it's like 4 of the 5 of the top 6 guys, or no, 4 of the top 5 guys started their careers off somewhere else than where they are now.
Yep.
Welcome to college football. I mean, it's hard to see. I mean, you know, because the position's still a developmental position, you know, and these guys are being developed at different places. They're moving into different places, moving into new systems. Sometimes, Matt, those work out really, really well. Sometimes those don't work out really, really well, right? I mean, for Hendon Hooker, it was an absolute home run, It was a great move for Russell Wilson when he made it years ago. It doesn't always work out that the guy you brought in is the best guy. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, you catch lightning in a bottle sometimes. I mean, look at Joe Burrow to LSU, you know, Justin Fields to Ohio State. I mean, those guys, you know, made the right decision for them. But it's going to be such a common theme in football now. Like you said, welcome to college football. I mean, there's going to be guys that hit and there's going to be guys that miss. It's just going to be like, you know, the recruiting process all over again, because that's what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, I'll be interested to see. I think it's a very good point when I looked at the list of what you said with Joe Milton. He just brings back as much continuity as anybody. Jaden Daniels the same way. And I think you could very well at the end of the season, given the systems that those two programs run, I think they could be 1-2. Also, what does Carson Beck look like in Mike Bobo's system? Because I think Carson Beck's going to be the starter there, and one of those guys behind him is headed to the transfer portal post spring. And I think Ty Simpson is going to, should have been the one on that list. And, what does he look like? Because like Rob said, he's got weapons around him. So it'll be interesting to see. I think I'd like to see what that list looks like again in May after, everybody wraps up spring practice and, you see film and video of what went on.
There'll be another list. Don't worry.
Yeah, there will be. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm with you too. I mean, you look at this top 10 right here, like there's no guarantee Spencer Sanders is the starting quarterback at Ole Miss, even though I think he will be. No guarantee about Carson Beck, even though I think he will be. Jalen Milroe, who I don't think will be the starting quarterback. Kind of what's that look like? And then some other guys who weren't even, making this list. So I just think it's interesting. I think Joe Milton's got as high a ceiling as anybody on this. And when you compare Joe Milton to some of these other quarterbacks, he hasn't played consistently the last 2 years, of course, being behind Hendon Hooker. But when Joe has played, one thing you can say about him, he might overthrow some guys, but didn't turn the football over. I mean, Spencer Rattler is a turnover machine, right? KJ Jefferson, when he's not healthy, he turns the football over a little bit. Will Rogers thrown his fair share of interceptions, not many, but throughout his career. Joe Milton hadn't done that to this point. So just kind of interesting going into spring and kind of seeing where Tennessee's guys kind of stacked up around the rest of the SEC, where there's a lot of name loss recognition in terms of no Young, no Hooker, no Rogers, no Richardson, none of those guys. Hey, thanks so much for watching the video here at Volquest on YouTube, the leading source of University of Tennessee football, basketball, and recruiting. Be sure to check out our latest video right here and our latest live show right above it. All that at Volquest.com and Volquest on YouTube.